Hey everybody, this is Calvin Waite. I trade crypto for a living. I'm not a registered or licensed financial advisor, planner, or broker, so nothing on this channel should be taken as a recommendation to buy or sell. I also trade all of these things, so I probably have a vested interest in there. But there's plenty of entertainment value and lots of education, so this will be awesome. For those of you who didn't know, my subscription channel is live. So look at the link in the description over at cryptoinfluencers.com and you can see how I make all of my trades and what I do and what I think about everything. This channel is for more hypothetical and looking at trends, and the other one is for actual trading. So you might be interested in that. All right, happy live stream day. We love Wednesdays. Wednesdays exist so that markets can be insane. So definitely out of nowhere, we have a very strong red day today. And so we'll talk through all of that. Today's the last day of the month, so we have a lot to talk about there. Let me just remind you to go to cryptoinfluencers.com. That is where you'll find my free and my paid channel. And I wanted to congratulate, everything's going slowly, sorry, Garvin Carrick on winning the $25 this time. Just putting your Ethereum address in the chat is how you do that. The link's in the description if you want to enter the $25 a day giveaway of Ethereum. So that's that. Normally when you go to cryptoinfluencers.com, you'll just, this is the homepage. Just scroll down a little bit. My pro channel's here and my free one's here. So the free channel, you know, I always put my stuff here first. Okay, all right. With that out of the way, let's look at this very strange day that we have going. There are a couple of things that are very obvious just looking at today's price action. We have 5.5 hours left, but first things first, where was the selling climax on today? It happened right at the 100-day moving average. So we had a lot of support on the top of the 100-day moving average, and then we broke it and threatened to be resistance on it, and then we really got above it. And it looks like, at least temporarily, we have support there. It's very, very clear, very clean, because we have the 100 is sitting at exactly 26,834, and our low today is 26,839. So $5 above. It is just about as perfect as it comes when you're dealing with a 5-figure asset. To hit it within $5 is pretty calculated, let's just say. So we have this absolutely perfect touchdown on the 100, and we're currently pulling up a little. Not to say that we'll end there or not. You know, Wednesdays are just crazy days. I did not see a drop off this intense. I kind of felt like this line here would hold, but after we got too far in, I think our midnight marauders showed up. Let's see what time this happened. Yeah, we got a high volume spike at 4:45. Technically this was about 15 minutes before either the Asian or the European session begins. So it was it was kind of interesting. But yeah, so anyway, it was at a sort of lower volume period of time. Let me pull up volume really quick. Yeah, so super high volume out of nowhere. There was almost no volume before that. If I go to 1 hour and zoom out, you can kind of see that there are these periods where there's higher volume, except for weekends. And it's usually, yeah, 10 o'clock is usually when it begins. And then anyway, but this high volume spike happened last night at 4. So I don't know how often at 4 o'clock is high volume. This was the lowest volume here, medium here. It was a little bit more there, but lower than the surrounding. So in other words, it was definitely a low volume, opportunistic time to move the market. So yeah, that's very, very interesting seeing that sort of thing. I noticed that on our 5 minute, we finally exited the red zone. Sometimes these happen in threes, and Ethereum kind of showed it a little bit stronger. We had a 5 minute where we exited for a bit briefly, another one for briefly, and then this is likely the one that holds. So we'll see if our 50 crosses the 100. That'll kind of help cement the idea that we're probably going to see the end of this drop here. But okay, let's finish talking about Bitcoin. So we are currently hovering around the 20. So the 20-day moving average is where we are finding support potentially. That number is at exactly 27,031. So if we stay fairly above 27,000, we will hold this line here, and then we'll have to kind of see where we go from there. So from a daily standpoint, we are slowly. I would rather approach support than bump up against resistance. I have a different chart that shows a little bit more of this trend, and I think it might be coming into play. Yeah, so we drew this wedge a while ago, and it kind of fell apart right here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a change to the shape of this, because we definitely had a candle body that went down to here. These are still showing support, so this line is still in the works. But notice my little dotted line that I have in the middle. This dotted line was sort of the flip point between support here and then resistance here. Then when this candle showed up, we can see that our line has to move just a teeny bit. So I'm going to put it right on the candle body here. But there's this little bit of play. There's a little bit of play in the middle of our broader falling wedge, or whatever this is. And most recently, we've had trouble on the bottom side of it, and we don't really want to play too much down on the bottom side of one of these, because you can easily fall out the bottom. But with this candle, it brought us back up to the top of our channel, and now we're just testing the top side. I would much rather play on the top side of a channel than the bottom side. So even though this is not pretty, I mean, we definitely came down pretty hard from our 28,000 area. We were doing pretty good. We're down pretty far, but it's not exactly a place that we're just completely panicking and falling apart. The only thing that could be questionable, and I have to be realistic about this, is that we were support on the 50 a couple of times, and then the 50 broke. And the 50 is a pretty important line. When you break below the 50, it is not very often that you just come flying back through it. So this was a very unusual situation. We didn't spend much time rejecting or supporting on the 50, so we kind of sliced through it and then we sliced back up. This is unusual. This is not a normal scenario. But what we're doing now is we have support, 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 break, and now we have our first interaction with the 50, and it's on the underside, and we got rejected pretty hard. So that's not exactly good news. So what we're going to have to be watching for is how we play out. If we get back down to about 26,000, it's probably the greater than 50% chances that we're probably going to fall apart. So we definitely want to stay above this dotted line. It would be really nice to maintain support off of this 100. I'm really expecting one more solid push. Alts and everything else are really showing a lot of impatience when it comes to another push to the upside. And then the final thing is that we have our weekly 200 that's coming up. And I really, really strongly think that the 200 will hold. It's such a major level, and we have held it so far. I just have a hard time thinking that we'll drop through. So now let's zoom out to the weekly and take a look at our candle here. All right, so here's the weekly, and this is our current week. It looks kind of muddy, and I'll show you that there is actually something that's happening in this weekly. And I don't know if it'll fully play out because we're at 4 days and 6 hours left. But let me switch this over to our line graph, and let's see what is kind of happening with this falling wedge. So the falling wedge is a bullish formation that if you break out of it, you're usually going to have a leg up. We had a very, very clean action here inside of our weekly falling wedge. The 200-week moving average is coming up underneath us, and what we've done is we've broken out, and oftentimes the next thing we do is we come back and find it as support. So when you put the candle bodies back in, it looks a little messy, but when you kind of pull it out and just look at the line, you can see that we did have a very clear falling wedge. We had a break out, and now we're kind of coming back down for support. What we don't want to do is get too low. We don't want to get down to here. I mean, this is probably 26,687 is probably the lowest we would want to close. If we get back in this channel, it's not going to be pretty. Couple reasons for that. One, we'll have a new lower low, and that means that there's a continuation here. We're also getting a little bit too close to our 200. We've kind of hit it, and I'd really like to stay away from it at this point. So that's kind of what we're doing on the weekly. So even with this pullback, it's still bullish because there is a slight rounding happening at the top of this. And it's very clear that our 200 has been support. I think we've hit it twice in the last 3 weeks. I don't think there's a technical reason why we would have to hit it again for the fourth. This is definitely sufficient, especially with this liftoff, to get us out and away from this. So I would expect us to move up towards the 100-week moving average, which is at around 33,000. So I know it's hard to say things like that on a day where we've dropped down so far, but I'm just looking at the pure shape of this weekly chart, and there's a lot. I don't see an acceleration to the downside. I do see a breakout, and I see support on the upper side of our break. So there's a lot of positive things here that we would probably likely start heading up towards new highs for the year. Okay, now with that, our monthly candle is about to close. This monthly candle is kind of interesting. I'm going to go back to, so Bitcoin on the larger time frame. Our 50-month moving average has been support during the entire history of Bitcoin, all the way until we had our most recent selling climax, and we went yellow zone, white, and then yellow zone. And the rejection off of the 50 was very, very clear because we stopped right below it. We had a full doji candle as resistance, and then we completely fell apart halfway through this month here. This is March, and then we finally pushed up and made it through our 50. This was our exit from the yellow to the white zone, which is crazy bullish on larger time frames. When we go from yellow to white on the weekly, it's beautiful. So this is usually we're done. We're going to be in the white zone for a long time, which means our 50 should be support forever until we get into the green zone or something. But here we've exited the yellow zone, kind of the first yellow zone in history. And the most appropriate thing to do would be to come out and find support on the top of it. Well, The 50 is currently at 25,063. This is why I thought this month we would get down there a little bit closer. But there is a chance that we, attempt to touch it in maybe next month. So that could potentially be bearish. But it doesn't have to be. I think there's a lot of things that are happening under the hood as far as our weekly, because the weekly looks bullish. The daily, oh yeah, this candle looks strange because yeah, it's supposed to open here. There must have been some kind of a glitch on the weekly on this index. So anyway, the weekly looks bullish. The daily is starting to turn the corner. A close above the 50 would cement our bullish situation. But on the monthly, we're not too far away from real tangible support. So I am a little bit more bullish than bearish, but you never know what we'll get next month. If we get a small red candle, I think we'll be ready to go. If we turn around and start showing some green, I wouldn't be surprised. Things are starting to do the right thing here. Let's see. There was something else I was going to mention. Well, if it comes to me, I'll mention it. But let's go look at Ethereum, and we'll look at Ethereum going backwards. So from Ethereum, last month we had kind of this wasn't a doji, but you could tell that there was a lot of resistance on this candle. This month we are absolutely printing a doji. So on Ethereum, this actually looks more bearish on the weekly. But Ethereum's not an independent market. It's going to go the direction that Bitcoin goes. So if I pull up Bitcoin's monthly and Ethereum's monthly, they both go hand in hand. When Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum goes up. They're not independent markets. So normally this would be pretty bearish. If this was on Bitcoin, I'd be a lot more nervous. But the fact that Bitcoin's already working through its pullback means that it's probably more limited if there is any more downside, and potentially from the daily and weekly that we're probably going to be moving up in the short term at least. So I don't think Ethereum's not just going to fall down when Bitcoin's going up. So that's kind of how we have to think about Ethereum. So let's see what Ethereum's doing on the weekly. So the weekly close on Ethereum actually looks pretty awesome. If we get a little bit closer, we want to stay above about the 50% mark. So if we can stay up a little bit higher, right up in where we are or above, this is going to start showing strength. We're going to start turning around. And our line right here at 1932 is the number to beat. So if we've kind of made an attempt that didn't hold, and now we're doing a kind of a rational attempt again. One of these weeks we're going to get above it, and we'll really be going. And then daily we had this really clean resistance on 1909, pulled back, found support on the 50. Had kind of an indecision candle, but there was no reason we couldn't have attempted it. But when Bitcoin fell apart, this has dropped. The only nice thing here is that our candle body is staying above this candle body. So this could easily be just a foothold on the way back up. Bitcoin, I don't think is looking that good. Yeah, because this didn't exist on the Ethereum side. And so this number here is 27,225. And if we pulled back up and had our candle body stay above there, it would be way more bullish. But we have 5 hours to just to see if that will happen. Okay, so that's pretty good on Bitcoin and Ethereum. The last two things I wanted to go to was the total market cap, because now that we're on the monthly close, it's worth spending some time on the total market cap. The total market cap actually did show a pretty solid reversal doji last month. And so it's this candle that is probably the best explanation as to why we're having a red month across crypto right now. The only unfortunate thing is that we do have a bit of a drop before we touch support. The 50 will likely be support, but that is a 10% drop from here. So it might be worth checking this, the sensitivity of your portfolio to say what would happen if we did drop 10%. We might have what we need, because there is a pretty solid chance that this resistance back here will be support for us here. So we might have what we need. We just needed a bit of a retreat from such a kind of a obvious reversal here. But we've only had a movement of 4 candles, so it's not like we need 4 more to balance this equation. We could have what we need. So the total market cap actually looks fairly bullish, probably more bullish than Bitcoin does, and certainly better on the monthly than Ethereum. So this is definitely an interesting thing. If we take out Bitcoin and Ethereum, most of the rest of the market is doing this. And the market here is squeezing. There's a squeeze happening. Really, it started on this candle here. And it's between this resistance and the 50-month moving average. So we had a little bit of a struggle here. We definitely had a rejection here. And now we are supporting on the 50 for now. If we eventually do get support off the 50, that would be really awesome, because we'll have a swing high or a swing low that's higher than our prior low. So this will definitely create a very explosive move, because we have a pretty strong resistance that is since September. I mean, this is, 9 months of resistance. We pull back up on month 10 or 11, and we finally break this, and this would represent one heck of an alt season. This would be a huge move in the alts market. Let's look at micro caps since we have the chance. So micros never really made it out of the yellow zone. And unfortunately, we're kind of accelerating to the downside. So this actually looks much worse. But let's see where this flipping line is here. It's right here. It may have started here, but price action has moved in. It's definitely here. So the problem with that is we have support flipping to resistance. So the micros are definitely suffering. This is not a pretty formation. The only question is, well, this is what happens next. The next thing that we watch for is, does this level break? Because if we drop down to this line or below, we're still bleeding off. If by chance we have a turnaround and we come up and attempt this, I'm going to be super bullish on micros, because we'll have a very obvious increase in strength on support, and we've been working on a line that's very, very old. So this would be an extremely bullish scenario if alts could move up, and it's not too far. Let me just see how far this is. It's only about a 15% move, 15 or 16%. So alts can move pretty quickly. All we need is a slight, a spark to get Bitcoin and Ethereum starting to move, and these alts will follow. And if any money flows into alts, it'll really benefit. So that is definitely happening. And then the final thing that's worth looking at is our Bitcoin dominance. According to this chart, Bitcoin dominance has a couple of things. I mean, we did get a higher high last month, and we're definitely retreating. But there's plenty of places where there is support. There's likely support here. Well, actually, the thing about Bitcoin dominance is if Bitcoin dominance drops, then that means alts are going to do better. Bitcoin has definitely been winning for quite a while. The most likely outcome would probably be a slow move back to our 20. By the time we actually touch it, it would probably be above these levels here. So that's kind of interesting. On the daily, we've been trying to break up. We've been in yellow and green for quite a while. And yeah, so we've resisted against the 20. We broke above. We're currently trading below. We're starting to get to the point where we've gone sideways for so much that our 100 is going to be in range. If we get the 100 and the 50 together, this will get really top heavy, and it'll likely come down. So I can see alts doing a little bit better because we're definitely weakening on our upswing, and the Ethereum Bitcoin chart is starting to take off. So Ethereum is starting to accelerate in its outperformance of Bitcoin. Just today, we are likely to cross the 50 over the 100. So we're starting to get our averages in line. We have price action on top, then our 50, then our 100. The only thing we're missing is the 200. It takes a long time for the market to flip all these around. But to have this as a foundation, it won't be long before price action gets above the 200, and then Ethereum's really going to start outpacing Bitcoin. If Ethereum starts accelerating, the alts will probably follow. So things might be changing in our market. I don't know if it'll happen right away, but I can certainly sense it over the next couple of weeks. I'm seeing a lot of strength across the board in alts, so I think they're getting impatient to go. All right, that's pretty much my analysis for Bitcoin and Ethereum and what's going on. Monthly, this is the monthly Ethereum to Bitcoin. Yeah, this actually looks more bearish to me on the monthly. We slipped below the 20 and we're kind of resisting. It would take a pretty strong push before this, could really change. Normally you'd see a drop back to the 50 and then you'd make an attempt. But man, this is a long time in the same range. This is 2 years worth of history, all in the same range. Crazy. Yeah, lower time frames though show that there's probably a lot of strength, and potentially this doji here might be the switching point for a move to the upside. So you never know. Cool. All right, I'm gonna go catch up on the chats. Dilemma says good vibes, which is awesome. And Stoyan, hey Calvin, happy Wednesday. Thank you. Happy Wednesday to you. Jorge says hi, and Jacob says let's go. Manzanarota, have you looked at the line from the bear market lows on the weekly? Let's see. Bear market lows on the weekly. I assume we're talking about Bitcoin. So these are the bear market lows in July, you said? Oh, this July, okay. Let's see, July 2021, and cloned it to the November 2021 highs. 2021, huh? Oh, interesting. I see what you're saying. So it's this impulse that seems to be what we've matched up here. So the speculation is, will we fully drop off, have a bull trap, and just continue to die? Yeah, let me hide my drawings really quick. So I'll tell you why there's a difference between these two. I know if you just took a screenshot of just this section and a screenshot of just this section, they do look similar. But there are a lot of differences. Number one, this entire event happened in the green zone. And it happened at the top of a pretty large move. 8,000 to 70,000. The emotions involved in this were very overextended. There was a lot of enthusiasm, kind of blind buying, a little too much bullishness. This is the top of a bull market cycle, and the emotions are completely different. So when we see a green zone, we're looking for exits. Green zones make us nervous. We're looking for exits in a green zone. And if we have been through a pretty solid and severe bear market, and we're doing the same price action, but what we're doing is we're exiting yellow zones to white zones, this is more of a buying opportunity than this is. So even though there could be pullbacks and there could be a little bit of, there could be some, emotionally there could be some of the similar little kind of ebbs and flows. The overall broad market sentiment is completely different. I'd much rather buy in a white zone than buy in a green zone. So yeah, hopefully that helps to kind of clarify that. Teha, your analysis are just great, thank you. Yeah, because it's one thing to just look at price action, and there's a lot to be read in when it comes to the emotions of the market. Okay, so Manzanarota is clarifying his thoughts. He says, more like there is a channel, bottom line from July 2021 to November 22, and that line clone starting from November creates the channel. So you're just using this to create a channel, and when we fall out of the channel, we're out. Yeah, I mean, there's a case to be made that we're doing the exact same thing. If we fall out, then there's probably some downside. There are some similarities, though. I'm not ignoring this little thing. That's currently what this looks like. Because we came down from a bit, and then we had a red, green, red. And we came down from a bit, red, green, red. But still, if we get down, yeah, the other thing that's in the play here is the 200-week moving average. Here we were battling with the 50-week. Now we're battling with the 200-week. And the 200-week is just really, it is historically been a very, very strong point. People that don't have the guts, or people that are more hesitant to buy or take in positions, they will likely stretch out their necks and take a buy near the 200-week more than they would the 50. The 200-week has been pretty much the line to watch in the history of Bitcoin. Entire indicators and trading thesis have been built around how close to the 200 you are, and we've spent some time below it. So there are emotions around it, and because we've broken it and fairly recently, it doesn't necessarily mean it'll hold, but where we were just most recently at resistance, and we've broken it now, and we're showing support on it. You kind of got to trust the TA that what was once resistance, once it flips to support, should be support. It would be very odd for us to show this much respect to this level, break it with such authority, and then just slowly, quietly slip back down below it. I just don't see that happening. And we haven't even had a liftoff. We haven't even had an actual confirmation of support. So for the first time, testing it as support, I would definitely consider a level like this to be support. And in fact, in a perfect world, I was waiting for wicks down to cross these wicks here. So if you took out the averages completely and just looked at price action, I would be looking for more of a drop. But what convinced me to go long down in this range area, right down in here, was the fact that we had this reversal candle on the weekly, and we had already touched the 200 as a kind of a hot stove reaction. And it was that combination that told me that I don't think the price action is going to trump the 200 week at this point. So the 200 week is probably the level that is going to hold. And I'm not sure how this week's going to play out, but it feels like we're lifting off slowly. So I would kind of put that more, I'd probably put a little more weight on that than, a kind of a blind comparison of, absolute price action, because the emotions are completely different here. And there's a lot of support down here where there just isn't up here. Cool. Gravitronic. Why do you think Bitcoin volumes have dropped so much on the weekly since exiting the yellow zone? I'll tell you exactly why. The reason, the night and day shift between these high volumes and these low volumes was the attack on crypto banks. So the banking system was settling 24 hours across banks, and it was a handful of banks that were very crypto friendly and forward thinking that were doing 24-hour settlements, and they were moving money across borders and at midnight and 1 a.m. and things were flying. Well, the second those banks went down, the volumes have not been the same. And it's interesting because it's strange that our volumes were like this before while it was still running, and how much they picked up. I think the volumes have picked up because, there's a lot of question as to whether we're going long or short. There's a lot more emotions at the bottom of a bear market. So these are also, contributing to these higher volumes. But it was night and day. Like the volumes completely shut off when those banks went down. And on the weekends, you'll also notice that the index versus Binance USDT. So this is a USD index, and this is a USDT on Binance. There is usually a discrepancy between price over the weekend, and it was way higher earlier on, and there have been banks that have tried to come and fill that gap, but it's usually off by about $50 to $100 on the weekends, and then Monday morning everything sinks back up again. So it's very interesting how the banking has contributed to that. Whether there's a buy signal or a sell signal there, I don't think there is. I think it's just something that we've seen in these markets. But yeah, I know it's tough to be so bullish on a red day like this, but just kind of standing back and looking at the formation of this, there's a lot of strength here. And the 50 week is coming up, but it's just not, it wasn't low enough for us to do it, because I think we would have had to do a little bit more serious of a break below the 200 week to tag the 50 month. And the 200 week I think is just too strong. We just didn't allow the wicks to get down there. Had it, I'd have been very happy because I had orders in, man. I was ready to rock and roll down there. But I'm certainly of the opinion that our market is gonna try for one more push. What I think is likely to happen, usually these things happen in threes, and I'm betting we get one more attempt. And I don't know if we only get to the 33,000 layer level, or if we end up overshooting a little bit. Either way, we're probably going to come down pretty decent on the other side. Depending on how we interact with the 200 week by the time we get there, this one will be much more of a question mark. I feel like the 200 will hold here. If we go up pretty good and then we start showing some serious toppiness and we start getting choppy and we start losing levels like this, it's questionable. Who knows if we might lose the 200 over here, but usually you're not gonna flip back and forth right away. You're probably gonna last for a little bit. So it's kind of the way I'm reading this. So I'm very bullish on Ethereum. So Ethereum, I mentioned it in one of my other videos, how we had a death cross followed by a golden cross down here. It's hard to see. Guess I have to move my chart in order to get there. Yeah, look at this. So it's very interesting how Ethereum has held up so strongly against Bitcoin. The fundamentals are just a little bit better. Bitcoin obviously is limited to 21 million, but there's still inflation. Between the burn on Ethereum, so the inflation or the total market supply is slowly getting smaller, and the amount that is being tied up, the fundamentals are amazing. I don't know if you guys remember, but a month or two ago, I was, I think it was, about a month ago, we were at a net staking balance that was negative, and it was like a late Saturday night, and I said, Ethereum's about to make history. We're going to go positive for the first time, and we'll probably never look back. And that is amazing. We have 2.3 million more Ethereum staked than we started with during the Shanghai fork. And during that time, people have withdrawn 3 million Ethereum. So tons of Ethereum is being staked. I'm very interested in this number because this number used to be 15.1%. And even though we've deposited millions of Ethereum, the total amount that is staked has just barely gone up by 0.5%. I would not be surprised to see this thing at 50% someday. And if this is at 50%, like 50% of all Ethereum is tied up in staking, man, the kind of the impact of that is just going to be unbelievable. It would be just so bullish. So I've been very curious to watch this interaction between the Ethereum Bitcoin market. So far, this appears to be kind of a bearish situation. This is weekly Ethereum Bitcoin. But those that have watched me trade in the past, what I'm always looking for is a situation where we're marching down. We have a very well-established bear market. Things are pulling back pretty good. And then you get to a point where you have a selling climax, and then you have another attempt. And that second attempt that just can't get down there, it doesn't get down to the full level of weakness. And then we come back and we start playing with the break-even point of our prior swing high. This starts getting me very bullish because when we have this kind of structure underneath us, and then we start threatening to create a new high, we have a higher low in place. And if we start threatening to put in a higher high in place, this whole thing turns on its head. And it makes me extremely bullish. Well, most recently, on the weekly, notice how we slipped below the 20 here. We hit it as resistance and fell really hard. We met it on our buying climax at the 20 again here, and then it fell apart really hard. And this time we have marched carefully, stopped on it as respect, and started our new candle as support. There's a subtle increase in bullishness that's happening on the Bitcoin Ethereum chart that if we can get a close at or above this level here, we're going to start seeing Ethereum move. And I don't think we've really seen it. Most people that are trading in crypto, they don't remember what it was like to have Ethereum outpace Bitcoin like this. Back in 2020, when we started moving, it was crazy. And then, because during this time, let me go to the dollar value. 2020, we went from a price of 127 up to our high of 4,500. This was a major move. It was unbelievable. I think days like these can happen again. We're exiting yellow zones. Once these yellow zones are behind us and they're in the rear view mirror and we start putting in higher highs and higher lows, we're out of here. And we're starting to do that on the weekly. So when you really zoom out and look at these things, the long side of the trade just feels like it's the right side of the trade. So Very, very curious. There is one more thing that I think a lot of people are underestimating, and that is that starting tomorrow, Hong Kong can legally trade crypto again. And it's not every degen crypto known to man. It is kind of a select top 20, maybe a select top 10 or something. And what I'm expecting, so back in the day, but this is way, way back in the day when when I was trading Bitcoin, China wasn't sure what to do with Bitcoin. And China said it was legal, and then it was not legal, and it was legal and not legal. And markets moved on that news. Finally, after it had been legal and not legal for so long, the market eventually ignored it. But the fact that China is opening up money for Hong Kong to start trading, I think is fundamentally bullish. I don't know if tomorrow the markets will just suddenly spike up. I don't know if that's the reaction, but there's a lot of money. The citizens over there, they're not as wasteful and debt hungry as Americans are. We spend a lot of money on all kinds of things, and we finance most of it with our credit cards. But Chinese and those types of cultures, they're just a little more conservative. They're much more interested in saving and finding longer term places to put money. And man, I think what you can take to the bank is that the last time that Bitcoin was pronounced illegal, most of the people over in China probably sold. They probably went back to yuan or whatever to keep their savings in some other vehicle. If it is legal, I'm betting there's more buy side than sell side. So I think fundamentally, people that the Chinese group over there, they're going to be probably more likely to get in than to get out. They probably don't have Bitcoin they've been sitting on while it's been illegal that they're waiting to sell somehow. They're probably looking to fill their bags at this point. And it makes me kind of wonder that, the day before we're seeing kind of this wild rush, this push down, if this is the fake out and that there's going to be some bullish news coming in and some bullish momentum that will flip this on its head. And so I'm kind of sticking to my guns. I'm not too nervous about this drop, even though it's not super comfortable. I just think that the 200 is going to hold. I think by end of day, we'll probably even pull up and find support on the top of this. And even if we don't, our next swing low will likely be higher than this low. So we have a higher high in place. And now if we can get a higher low in place, we will have confirmation of a momentum shift from the top. So there's a lot of things adding up to make this very bullish. And then knowing that the SEC has to respond to Coinbase within the next, I think, 7 days is pretty awesome. There are some things that might really make a difference. And I think there's so much bearish sentiment kind of baked in to all of those things that neutral news or good news is going to explode the market because everyone's already prepared for bad news. All we've had ever with the SEC is bad news. So if we make any progress whatsoever, that'll be positive. So, all right, I guess I've kind of monologued for quite a while here. You guys are awesome for hanging on. But yeah, very interesting things happening in the crypto markets. For now, we have pulled down for a little bit, but I'm just thinking that this is sort of the last volatility before we start a trend change. And not every trend change looks like this. So it's perfectly fine that in a measured, calm manner, we slowly make progress towards breaking new highs and getting up there. My eyes are definitely be glued to this 50. If we were support here and resistance here, that's probably the strongest bear case in the current market. So if we can kind of get up and retest this sooner than later, that will be very, very positive in my mind. Okay, thank you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you supporting me by watching my stuff. And if you'd love to, learn how to do all this stuff, manage risk and all that, you'll have to check out my pro channel. I'm planning, I kind of, at the beginning of my channel, I said I was going to make $1 million. So whenever I get to the point where I've made $1 million on the pro channel, I'll make an announcement and tell you guys what's going on. All right, you guys, that's it. Thanks so much for being here. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for making it to the end of my video. Make sure you keep those trades small. Don't force a trade. Don't get impatient. And if you want to see how all this works, please come over and check me out on the subscription channel at cryptoinfluencers.com. Again, the link is in the description.